Well, let's talk about what it governs, or how it governs, these drivers and these trucking companies and shipping companies and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So it also, it governs literally every part of the day-to-day operations of the trucking company.
Okay.
From how they recruit, how they train drivers, how the drivers actually are onboarded. They have to maintain a driver file that includes all of their drug tests. Those drivers have to be dispatched in a certain manner according to, the time and distance of the trip and whether or not that trip could potentially end up resulting in an hours violation. When the driver arrives to pick up a load, they're required to do a pre-trip to secure the load, do a pre-trip inspection. Well, let me tell you what's somewhat complicated about these things is just the layers of legal entities that often exist when we're talking about trucking cases. And that's really where some of the complexity comes in, because in addition to, the rules that we're talking about, we're also talking about how those rules apply to multiple entities. Very rarely do you have a situation where you have a company driver driving a company truck, pulling a company trailer, and they're all working for the company, which is also the motor carrier of record. The more regular scenario is you have the motor carrier, or you actually have the company that is employing an owner-operator who owns his own truck, that's driving a trailer that's owned by some leasing company that maybe even the trucking company owns or owns a part of that leasing company. And so now all of a sudden you have multiple layers of legal entities that you're going to have to dig into and find out, about all of their hiring practices, whether each of those were being cognizant of the rules, and to what degree there's overlap between all those things. Because if you have one company that's trying to create some legal separation between its different components to kind of isolate legal liability, they have to also recognize those distinctions in how they do business and make sure all of the transactions that occur between each of their own parts are done at an arm's length. And if they're failing to do that, then as lawyers, we have a better argument to pierce the corporate veils that may isolate each of those entities. So, you have not just the rules, but typically multiple layers of legal entities that you now have to try to sift your way through and send rep letters to and potentially file lawsuits against and so forth. So in other words, for a claimant, someone that's a victim of a wreck like this, one of the biggest questions is like, where do you even start? And without proper legal representation, it's nearly impossible to dig into each of those things and figure out what it is that you need to get.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you